Hey, I'm Brian. I'm the senior minister at Harmony Christian Church. Thanks for clicking on this video and giving us a watch today. Hope that this video is a blessing to you and whoever you might be watching it with. If you'd like to find out more about Harmony Christian Church, you can go to harmonychurch.tv, and there you can read more about us. You can do online giving. You can do a one-time gift or recurring giving. You can also send us a gift if you would like to Harmony Christian Church at 7100 South Choctaw Road, Choctaw, Oklahoma 73020. You can also find us on Facebook at Choctaw HCC, or you can give us a phone call at 405-391-7310. Again, hope this video is a blessing to you and to your family or whoever you might be watching it today, and maybe we'll get to see you on a Sunday here in person at 10:30 on Sunday morning. The core of Christianity is all about one's connection with God. Like when somebody became a Christian, nobody said, "Oh, gee whiz, there's all these rules I get to follow? How amazing is that?" No. When somebody became a Christian, there was this moment where somebody felt like this experience that they had of connecting with God, a God who knows them, a God who loves them, and they felt some kind of connection with that. They felt like, oh, like God really loves me. God really wants a connection with me. And so that's what got them in to Christianity, not like, oh, gee whiz, I get to follow, like, here's this whole list of rules over here that looks like fun. Like, that wasn't what anybody signed up for when they became a Christian. In fact, from the very beginning, one of the things that we read in the Bible is how God does desire a connection with all of us. You know, at the very beginning, God creates, we're told, everything. He just creates everything. And then one of the things that God creates toward the very end is God creates human beings. And we're told that humans were made in the image of God. And what that means is that every single human being, no matter where they're from, no matter what place on the planet they are found, every single human being is made in the image of God and therefore has value and worth. And not only do they have value and worth, just because of the sheer fact that they're a human, we also know that being made in the image of God also carries with it this idea of being like God's representative. That wherever it is you go, because you're made in the image of God, you're like God's representative. You're God's ambassador. Other people should be looking at you and going, oh, look, like that over there is an image of God because he's doing the things that God would want people to do here on earth. And so God desires this connection. God desires a connection with us because he made us and we're made in his image. And so we have this special connection that humans have with God because he desires this connection with us. Revelation chapter 3 verse 19 kind of emphasizes this a little bit. It says this: "Those whom I love I rebuke and discipline. So be earnest and repent. Here I am. I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with that person, and they with me." I remember one time as a kid growing up in church, and even a teenager growing up in church, hearing that passage and going, that's a little scary. Because of the way I kind of had been taught about this passage, it meant that you were in trouble. That Jesus was knocking on the door, and that was a bad thing. Like, we're not sure if we want to let Jesus in because maybe we've done something wrong. Like maybe Jesus is like coming here to tell us like how bad we are. But that's not what this passage is talking about. What this passage is saying is Jesus would appreciate it. He would like it. He would desire it if you would just open a door. That the unlocking of the door, that the knob of the door is on your part of the door. And if you would like a connection with him, he'd really appreciate it. If you'd open the door and he'd like to come in and have a meal and get to know you, have a connection with you. That's what that passage is telling us. And it's not just this passage in Revelation. We can go all the way back, like we just did a few minutes ago. We can go all the way back throughout all the passages in the Bible, all the way back to Genesis, all the way back to the book of Genesis, and see that over and over again, this is something that God desires. He desires a connection with us. He wants a connection with us. We see this again, for example, in John chapter 15. In John 15, starting in verse 12, we read this: "My command is this, Love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know what his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends, for everything that I learned from my Father, I have made known to you. So Harmony's mission is to build relationships through love. Like, that's what we want to do with everything that we do. We want to build relationships through love. And it's really hard to build relationships through love if you don't have friendships. If you don't have a friendship connection with God, and if you don't have a friendship connection with other people, man, it makes it really hard to build relationships through love. It makes it really difficult to do that. And so this friendship, this building relationships through love, all starts with a connection that we have through Jesus, and it continues in how that connection that we have with Jesus plays out in our connection with other people. That's kind of difficult, isn't it? It's difficult because I'm just thinking about all the things that are going on in our world right now. All the ways in which we are so stressed. We're stressed about the kids, and we're stressed about the grandkids, and there's stress in the economy, and there's stress in the nation, and there's stress in here, and there's stress there. Like, just everywhere we turn this year, it just seems like there's just more and more stress, more and more chaos, more and more things to worry about and to do, and the pace of things just isn't stopping. It's unrelenting. Maybe we've just been a little bit distracted. Maybe I'm just saying I've been a little distracted. And when you get distracted, it kind of brings up a lot of anxieties when we get distracted. Maybe you're like me. Maybe you can remember melodies to certain songs. And when you hear a certain song, it can kind of transport you back to maybe a certain moment or a memory. For example, Bonnie Raitt has a song, and when she sings it, there's this little line that says, I can't make you love me if you don't. And when I do hear that little melody, and when I do hear that song that's on the radio, oh man, the betrayal that I feel, the knife in the back of the back, the knife in the back, and just kind of twisting that knife a little bit. I remember what that feels like. My guess is you know what that feels like too. Like, we all know what it's like to try to love something. Love the kids, love the grandkids, love your parents, love your friends, love your spouse, and then not have that love returned. It hurts. It's painful. And it leaves us kind of confused and wondering about what are we going to do, and it just kind of messes stuff up. It makes it difficult. It makes it difficult to say that the God who made the world and knows me wants a relationship with me. It makes us kind of suspicious because we've been hurt before in other relationships, and it's real easy for us to be suspicious about this offer from God to love us all the time, no matter what. And yet, as crazy as it is, often in my life, when I feel kind of distracted, when I feel like that friendship connection that I have with God is a little waning, I don't know about you, but what I've often discovered is, just like so many others, is it's not the God that left. It was me. I was the one who was angry, or I was the one who just kind of disconnected, or I was the one that walked away, which is really kind of amazing to think about. I mean, the God of the universe, the God who made it all, desires a relationship, desires a connection with us, and yet we can walk away from it if we so choose. We can reject him if we want to. Like, we can do that. I think that's kind of how maybe it comes across sometimes when we read the Bible. Like, I think a lot of times, sometimes when we read the Bible, we use the Bible as sort of like this formula. Like, okay, if I read this particular passage, plus if I read this particular passage, that will equal this thing getting fixed in my life. And that's not how the Bible works. In fact, the Bible really isn't even a book, really. The Bible really is more like a library. The Bible is a library that contains stories about God. And it's the stories about God's love and His grace and even God's truth, a truth that points all back to who Jesus is and what Jesus did and what Jesus was all about. Like, that's what the Bible does. And I can't help but wonder if all in all this stress and all these distractions that we have in our world right now, I can't help but wonder if maybe we had a little less screen time with Facebook, a little less screen time on Parler, a little less screen time on Instagram, YouTube. Maybe if we had a little less screen time on those things, and maybe spent a little more time reading the Bible, then maybe we might be able to cultivate and get over some of these suspicions and wonders that we have of this connection that God desires with us, and maybe we might just cultivate that friendship a little bit more. Maybe that's something that we could do. In fact, here's what I would like to suggest to all of us. Some few little simple things that we could all do this week that would build relationships through love. And one of the first ones is this. Could we just all start with the mindset that God is our friend? Like, what if we just did that? What if this week we just made a decision? Make a decision. And the decision is that God's my friend. That God isn't out to get me. He's out to destroy me. That instead, the God who made me, the God who knows me, this is the same God that loves me and desires a relationship with me. Like, maybe that's where we could all start. And one of the first things when you think about that kind of a friendship, that kind of a connection that God desires with us, one of the first things that you would do with that is what do you do with a friend? Like, one of the first things that you do with a friend is you spend time with a friend. Right? Like, if you have a friend, one of the things you want to do with them is go do stuff with them. Whatever that might be. But you're going to go spend time with your friend. Maybe we could do that too this week. Maybe we might even go so far as to schedule some time with God. Maybe we could just pull our cell phones out, use that calendar feature, and set a little reminder that at this time, from this time to this time on this day, I'm going to dedicate some time to this connection, to this friendship. I'm going to cultivate this friendship connection with God. I'm going to do something about it. I'm not just going to talk about it. I'm going to actually do something about it. I mean, think about it like this. If you had a friend of yours that just came by to your house, they just knocked on the door. You didn't really know they were coming. They just kind of stopped by. And they knocked on the door, and they busted through your door, and they were like, hey, I can only be here for about 10 minutes. By the way, I could use a glass of water. They guzzle the water down. They say, nice to see you. I'll see you again maybe sometime next week. And then went out the door. It's not really much of a friendship connection there, is it? And yet we do that to God all the time. And then we wonder, I wonder why I don't feel so connected to God. I wonder what that problem is. So maybe we could all make the decision this week. Just decide. Operate within the mindset of that God's my friend. And that God desires a friendship with me. And if He does, then let's spend some time cultivating that relationship. So not only do friends value time together, friends also value authenticity. Friends like it when you're authentic with them. You know, a real friendship is somebody that can get beyond just the surface comment of, oh, how you doing today? Okay. Everybody says okay. But an authentic friend, when you ask, like, how you doing? An authentic friend is somebody who will say, you know, feeling a little anxious, feeling a little depressed, feeling angry. Maybe I'm feeling joyful. But a real friend will kind of tell you where they're at. You know, oftentimes in our relationships when we feel some a lack of emotional connection to our friends, it gets the anxieties going. We start to wonder, well, did I say something wrong? Did I do something wrong? Did I make them mad? You know, we kind of put it on ourselves, like, well, should I apologize for something? Like, what did I do wrong? And really, it's just our own anxieties. It's just our own anxieties about just being worried and anxious about a lack of connection that we really want with a friend. I think that's something similar to what God wants. And I don't think God's surprised either. I don't think there's anything that you can tell God and God would be surprised by. I don't think you're going to tell God something and he's just going to be like, you know what? You really got me on that one. I had no clue. Instead, I think what God desires is some authenticity. So maybe this week you could just start by spending some time with God and just being authentic and just saying, you know, God, I'm angry. God, I'm mad. God, I feel distant. God, I'm really confused by, or God, I'm really depressed about. Maybe that's an excellent place to start this week with God. So not only do you spend time with a friend, not only are you authentic with a friend, but you also have fun with a friend. I mean, one of the things that we do, one of the things we cherish so much about our friendships are you get to have fun. You do fun stuff together. You have stories that you can tell each other and laugh about because you remember that time when we did this and then that happened and da-da-da-da and how much fun we had. I think God desires the same thing for us. I think God desires us to enjoy the life that we have. I mean, God made this world for us to enjoy. He made your work something that he wants you to enjoy. Enjoy the kids. Enjoy the grandkids. Enjoy your spouse. Enjoy the house that you live in. Enjoy the car that you drive. Enjoy. Have fun with it. Even in the midst of some really horrible stuff that's going on, there is so much about life to enjoy. You know, so the people of Israel are down in captivity in the book of Exodus. And maybe you remember that story. So God goes to Moses, says, Moses, I want you to go down, I want you to get my people, I want you to bring them out of slavery. And Moses, I don't know about that. But eventually we know what happens. Moses goes down to Egypt. He tells them my people go. And Pharaoh says, no, I'm not going to do that. We know what kind of happens with all that. And in Exodus chapter 12, in the midst of all this tension, in the midst of who knows what the future holds, in the midst of like, what are we going to do now? In the midst of what is this Moses guy even up to? You know, like, and you know, like now God wants to come and show up in the midst of all of this, all of these things that are going on. In Exodus chapter 12, God directs his people, you know what I want you guys people to do? In the midst of all the stuff that's going on, I want you to have a barbecue. I want you to have like a really good barbecue. And he gives like some really specific directions on how to have this barbecue. He tells them like what kind of meat he wants them to get. And he says, hey, look, I don't want you to boil this. No, nobody likes boiled meat. Ugh, like, I don't want that. No, instead, I want you to build an open flame. I want you to roast and cook this meat. Why? Because I'd like for you to enjoy it. Even in the midst of all of these things that are unknown, even in the midst of all these things that are up in the air and all the confusions that are going on, you know, I would love it if you had a barbecue to enjoy. That's what I'd like for you to do. I'd like to suggest to you that even during all the things that are going on right now, that God is leaning in on your life. That God is seeking your attention. That in the midst of all the things that are happening and all the stresses and all the things that are just distracting us at this moment, God desires a relationship with you. That God desires to build a relationship through love with you, and he desires for you to build a relationship with love with other people. But we can't do that if we don't have a good relationship with God, and we can't do that if we don't have a good relationship with other people. So maybe what you might consider, one last simple thing to consider this week is this. How are you gifted? Just what is that? Maybe you like to bake. Maybe you like to listen to music. Maybe you're a good listener. Maybe you're an encourager. Maybe you're somebody who likes to talk on the phone. Maybe you're somebody who can write a card. Maybe you're somebody who speaks your love through the delivery of a meal. Whatever that might be this week, might we take some time with God? Might we be authentic with Him? Might we enjoy this world and enjoy the world that we find around us? And might we take the gifts that we have, whatever that might be, and use them to build relationships through love? God bless.